What is up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of the RPG podcast. We're here with David once again. David, you started a new softball league, so we're recording this on Wednesday instead of our normal Tuesday. How's that been going so far?
Well, we're 1-0, but it was against the team that I'm sure will be the worst in the league. So we'll see how it goes the rest of the way.
Okay, awesome. Real quick before we get into the episode, we are going to drop an episode on the channel about a new fantasy football platform called Ultra GM. And essentially, what that platform is it's giving you the chance to step into the role of GM. So in my case, I can step into the role of Howie Roseman. That's some big shoes to fill, but I can try and prove that I'm worth my salt, try and prove that I can do it better than Howie, or at least do it as good as Howie. And it is a revolutionary new take on fantasy football. So it includes the positions that I was always wondering how people would include. We got the big, beefy boys up front, we got the tackles, the guards, the centers. And then for us IDP fans, you also got defensive guys and kickers and punters. David, I don't know if I've ever been in a league that has a punter. Have you?
I have not.
Okay, just something else to be able to look forward to. It is a fantastic platform. It is not just a regular fantasy football platform. It is not just a simulator either. You are actually getting involved in the process, managing a salary cap, managing free agency within the Ultra GM platform. And with the buy-in, you get not just one, but two teams. You get to compete against the 32 other teams in the NFL. And then you also get to compete in a 14-team league that is just of your favorite team, along with a CPU that is essentially acting as the generic, in my case, Philadelphia Eagles. So if you guys want to go out, give it a look over Ultra GM, you'll see the banner at the bottom of the screen here. Use code RPG25 to get $5 off the team when you try and check out. But we are here tonight to talk redraft fantasy football. We are going to give you a couple of each position and then a single tight end that we think is going to be outperforming their current ADP and what they are projected to do for that 2025 season. Look, it may be a little early, but we're trying to get you ready for when that season comes around so you can take your coworkers to town, just put them to shame, be able to win that league, carry that trophy with pride around the office. David, do you guys have an office trophy for your fantasy football league?
We do not. The best we can get in our office is 8 people, and they still play with defenses and kickers. So we got our work cut out of us before they're ready for this.
Okay. We usually were at 10, and we just recently got up to 12. So we are very excited about getting to 12 teams. Some people fought against it. They said, that is way too many, but we're still a single QB league. We still have defenses. We still have kickers. It's dreaded for me. It hurts my heart, but that's okay. I will be able to manage. So, David, without further ado, what is one quarterback that you have higher on your list that you think is going to outperform their ADP for this coming season?
Okay, so and these ADP numbers are coming from Fantasy Calc. They do redraft rankings as well as Dynasty. The first one on my list is Justin Fields, currently clocked in at QB 25. You can think Justin Fields is not a great quarterback. You can think he's not a starting caliber quarterback. But the fact for redraft is he's going to be starting for the Jets. There's no real competition. He has the contract to do it, at least in the short term. And his rushing value alone ensures he's going to be better than QB 25. He is based on physical skills, he has the talent to be a top 12 quarterback because rushing is such a cheat code in fantasy. Garrett Wilson is probably, the best receiver he's had to work with. There isn't really a wide receiver 2 there, but it's a solid offensive line. he's in position to succeed, and I don't see how at QB 25 you don't get a value there.
Yeah, fantastic. Right off the rip, you're taking Mike's favorite player. Unfortunately, Mike is dealing with some work things, so he will not be with us tonight. But we're mentioning Justin Fields in his stead. Fantastic pick there. For my first quarterback that I want to shout out, I want to go with JJ McCarthy. All right. This is an offense that has historically produced effective point scoring quarterbacks. You look at Sam Darnold. Oh, man. Remember the corpse of Sam Darnold and how everybody had him written off? Everybody was like, he's like a high-end backup. You know, he really shouldn't be anything more going forward. Okay. Here he was at QB 9 in total points, if I'm not mistaken. Last year, that's a huge number. Look, JJ McCarthy, I get it. He's essentially a rookie. It's his first time really taking snaps in the NFL. But how do you vote against somebody that is currently going as QB 21 that has Justin Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones out of the backfield as a receiver, who is an underrated receiver, arguably a top 5 offensive line, and a top 3 play caller? Look, you put everything you need around this kid to be able to succeed, even if he is a quote unquote game manager that's not going to offer you a ton on the ground. QB 21, man, I have him projected somewhere in that QB 14 to QB 16 range, which is above that QB 21 current ADP. How do you feel about that, David?
JJ was literally the second name on my list for this segment. If you had gone first and mentioned Justin Fields, JJ would have been the guy I'd be talking up right now. So obviously there's a certain unknown. He's never played a snap in the NFL, but he's got the first round draft capital. He looked good in college in a similar kind of like game manager, don't screw it up role. And the Vikings are such a good situation. All he has to do is be not terrible to end up like a top 15, 20-ish quarterback. I think he can be an average starter year one, which in fantasy probably has him pushing that low-end QB1, high-end QB2 ceiling. So I think that's a really good selection there with JJ.
Okay, well, fantastic. Appreciate the praise as always. Since I took your QB2, we're going to put you in a little bit of a scramble drill here, David, and say, who's the next guy that you want to talk about?
This one's definitely not in the same tier as the other two. I'm not going out of my way for him, but Trevor Lawrence at QB 18, I've mentioned it before. So if you look at the ADPs for wide receivers, Brian Thomas is a top 10 guy. Travis Hunter is right around wide receiver 24 right now. So like you're expecting the Jaguars offense to produce a wide receiver 1 and a wide receiver 2. And that can't really happen if Trevor Lawrence doesn't have a fantastic season. The math simply doesn't add up. Personally, I think the world's a little too high on Hunter right now, but I can't deny that outcome is there. If those two wide receivers play up to their potential, that's arguably the best duo in the league, and you want the guy throwing the ball to them. Trevor Lawrence, I don't think he's ever going to quite be that, all-time generational talent he was billed as coming out of college, but he's still a starting caliber quarterback. He has a much better coach this year than he's had in the past. He has a better supporting cast, obviously, with Hunter in town. There's a real path this guy ends up as a low-end QB1, and getting him at QB 18, I'm more than happy to roll those dice.
Man, we just keep doing it to each other because I had him completely queued up as the next guy that I wanted to talk about. But we're going to play Scramble Drill over on my side now. But before I do that, I love it. They invested in Hunter. You saw that high draft capital. They have a new coach there that is an offensive-minded coach. We love pairing that together. You look at the running back room. David, you just did a video on the running back room recently, didn't you?
Yeah, just last week.
Okay. So that running back room, not too inspiring, right?
Not really. No, there's There's three guys it could be, but no matter who it is, you're not overexcited about it.
Okay, yep, that's what I thought. So, passes coming early, coming often, utilizing Trevor Lawrence's legs. Hopefully, he ends up staying healthy this entire season. But perfect segue to talk about health. I'm going to talk about scrambled eggs boy himself, Tua. Look, QB 20 in a full season, only played 22, sorry. Only played 11 games last year, and he still had 399, but call it 400 pass attempts last season. Man, that is a lot of pass attempts per game. This defense is still very questionable. The offensive line is more than questionable, honestly, especially with Armstead retiring. That is a big loss, even though I know some people will say he was already a foot out the door. But Tua's going as QB 26. Last year, everybody wrote him off for dead, and he came out QB 22. And then you look at points per game, came out at 17.1 points per game, which is QB 15. All right. If you're projecting any kind of resurgence from that Dolphins offense, Tua should only benefit from it. And if you're essentially telling me in a 2 QB league or in a Superflex league that I can get Tua at high end QB3 prices, obviously outside of the top 24, that's somebody that if Tyreek gets back to what he was, if Jalen Waddle finally does what people expected Jalen Waddle to do coming out of college, if Achane continues to get those dump offs because the offensive line can't block anything. They can't block an icicle. They can't block water. They can't block air. All right. They can't block a brick wall in front of them. Anybody from Stonehenge, or Easter Island, any of those rocks from Stonehenge, this offensive line is just Swiss cheese. But maybe that means Tua has to get the ball out. Tua has fantastic anticipation. That is one thing that I loved about him at Alabama. He does a great job of understanding the speed of his wide receivers, being able to put a ball up there and be like, hey, Tyreek and Waddle, go run under it. And then we have the recent news. David, they have a new tight end in Miami, don't they?
And I couldn't care less.
But everybody else seems to care. All right. McDaniels, they want this offense to be built around speed, built around athleticism. We'll see if Waller still has that athleticism, see if they still have that juice. But Johnny's no longer there, obviously. That was the big breaking news. Minka's back in town, maybe getting somebody that was really good when he was younger there.
Will Ramsey, though.
Yeah, we'll rejuvenate this team. Maybe they'll figure it out on offense. I'm willing to bet on that and them figuring it out at QB 26 prices for Tua. Do you disagree with me, David?
I'm not going out of my way for Tua, but yeah, QB 26, I fully expect him to beat that price.
Okay, well, fantastic. With that being said, then, we will move on to running backs here. I will continue to let you go first here, David. Running backs, who do you think is going to smash for this coming season?
So I'm going to sound like a broken record to our longtime listeners here, but I'm looking at James Conner at RB23 and wondering how that still happens. Look, I get it. He's boring. He's not a fun pick by any stretch of the imagination. He's been around forever, and eventually he will slow down. But he really hasn't yet, and Arizona doesn't think he's going to slow down either. He got a little bit of an extension fairly recently. They still have Trey Benson, yes, but he didn't do anything as a rookie to inspire confidence, think, oh, he's getting the job soon. And frankly, Connor got his extension after the Benson pick, which shows me they're not thrilled with what they've seen from him. So you have a guy who's the unquestioned starter in this offense. The Cardinals offense, it's not the 2007 Patriots, but there's some weapons there. It should be even more fun this year as Marvin Harrison Jr. gets up to speed. Lots of scoring opportunities, no real competition for touches. I don't see a way that, assuming he stays healthy, James Conner doesn't easily outplay his RB23 standing.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic. I love the James Conner pick. He is somebody that I continuously try and get later on in drafts because the value's just there. Look, Kyler is a giant question mark on if he's going to be healthy every single season. That is something to take into consideration because if Kyler does go down, they're going to lean on this run game. They're going to lean on a improving, not great, but improving offensive line and just hope that they can grind it out to be able to make things work. So my guy that I want to shout out is going to be Alvin Kamara. Look,
great choice.
RB16 prices, all right, but rookie quarterback, a offensive coordinator that loves utilizing his running back. All right, I get it. They invested in Devin Neal. People loved Devin Neal in the fantasy spaces, but that's not going to impact him in 2025. They loved him coming into the draft.
Oh boy, I'm so glad I'm off Twitter.
Yep. But Alvin Kamara will not be impacted in 2025 by that decision for the team. Right now, Fantasy Calc, they have him listed at 29.9 years old. So, he doesn't have that magic 3 in front of the number with his age. They list him as RB16. And look, RB17 is Trevion Henderson. For 2025, I, without question, 10 times out of 7 days of the week, I will be taking Alvin Kamara over Trevion Henderson. That is clear as day.
Yeah, not even thinking twice.
Plays in a dome. Plays in an offense that will most likely be passing a decent bit in the second half because the defense leaves something to be desired. So you probably get a little bit of positive game script for PPR leagues. You probably get that classic Alvin Kamara. Oh, man, just watching him just soak up receptions, soak up those yards in the second half. Absolutely love watching that happen year in and year out. David, making some faces there at me.
Oh, no, I'm trying to hold in a sneeze. But no, I agree with everything you're saying about Kamara. And one thing I'd like to add is most likely Shuck's going to be starting. He's a rookie quarterback with a probably bad offensive line, which means pressure's going to be there. He's going to need a safety blanket to just chuck the ball to. It's going to be ugly because this team's not going to score many touchdowns. But Kamara, especially in PPR leagues, he's going to get volume, and that's going to be enough to get you by. You chase volume and hope efficiency follows. Kamara is a great value at 16. But
all right,
if we want to get really ugly, really feel bad in the stomach, Javonte Williams, RB41. Do I think Javonte Williams is a good football player? No. I liked him coming out of college. He never got better from the knee injury. What could have been is heartbreaking to think about, but what is not a good football player. However, us spreadsheet dorks know that running backs do not matter. So much of running back production just involves being the guy that's in the backfield. So much of it is just on play calling, scheme, blocking. The running back's just there to not screw it up. Saquon Barkley would do much better in Dallas than Javonte Williams will, but we just saw Jerry get 1,000 yards out of Rico Dowdle, who is a career backup, never done anything before last year, probably won't ever do much of anything again. Do I think Javonte can do that? Yeah, I think he's a comparable player, and I think RB41 is a ridiculous price for him, and I'm not worried about Miles Sanders. I'm not worried about Jaden Blue. I think Javonte is the most likely guy to start in that mess, and I think it's going to be a good value. I think it's going to be disgusting. I don't want to be the one drafting him, but at the same point, I can't deny the value there.
Yeah, I mean, you had him going as RB what, David?
41 right now, according to Fantasy Calc.
41. All right. So at that point, you already have the RB1s for fantasy. You already have the RB2s. Your starting roster is filled out at RBs. You probably already have a RB in the flex spot. for most leagues as well. So you would be looking at Javonte just being one of those wild cards on your bench. And what do I love out of wild cards on my bench is somebody that could potentially find magic. And Javonte Williams, I'm with you. If the injuries haven't completely zapped his career, there may be a little bit of juice that Jerry will try and squeeze from the turnip. Okay, my second RB that I want to go to is Tony Pollard. All right, we have a offensive line that got better this past offseason. You have Latham out there at right tackle now, most likely right tackle. You upgraded at left tackle. You added Zeitler at guard coming over from the Lions. So they knew that they needed to invest in this offensive line to be able to keep their, once again, rookie quarterback. See this trend that we're getting right here. Their rookie quarterback upright, be able to keep him from developing any kind of Carr syndrome where he just starts seeing ghosts, where he was getting hit all of the time, taking sacks left and right. Look, Tony Pollard only had 5 touchdowns rushing last year. He only had 5 touchdowns, period, last year. No receiving touchdowns. He hasn't really had receiving touchdowns over his career, but man, is this wide receiver room barren. We got Calvin Ridley, a couple of rookies. I know one of those rookies, LKO Manor, Mike is a little bit higher on than both David and I. They also got DK, I think, in the slot. Not DK, but DIKE.
Okay. I was going to say, no, that's the Steelers, and that would be a very big deal.
The rookie coming in there as well. So they got a handful of rookie wide receivers. What pairs best with a rookie quarterback with multiple rookie wide receivers is running the football. I look for another season of 250 plus attempts. And if he can get 250 plus attempts, he may not be as explosive as he used to be, but even averaging a little over 4 yards a carry, that's a 1,000-yard season. If you have a 1,000-yard season in the NFL, you are probably a top 24 running back and going currently as RB29 in redrafts, according to Fantasy Calc. That tells me that he is a value.
All right. Honestly, I'd probably rather go Tyjae Spears. He's RB45, but fundamentally it's the same argument. I'm just going to bet on the younger guy. But my last value is going to be Najee Harris. Again, I talked about this in a solo episode. Do I think Omarion Hampton is a great player? Yes. But looking at how the Los Angeles Chargers are currently built and how I believe head coach Jim Harbaugh coaches his team, this team can win the Super Bowl. Are they the favorites? No, but they should be in the thick of it. And if I'm Harbaugh, I'm going into the season thinking, I need a guy that I know is going to just take the ball, run it straight, and isn't going to make any silly mistakes that can cost me a game. This is not the team where you try to just let the kids play and watch them learn as the year goes on. I think Hampton's eventually going to get the starting job. He's more explosive than Najee, but Najee's a solid starting running back, and he plays Harbaugh's style of football. So right now he is RB 33. The first month or two of the season, you're going to have a starter, and in that offense, behind that offensive line, with a coach that adores running the football, I mean, you're probably getting like borderline RB1 production. Granted, you're probably going to have to put Najee on your bench near the end of the season, but the upside in the beginning of the season, that's well worth RB 33 for me.
Yeah, all great points, David. All great points. I think from a dynasty mindset, which is mainly what we do on this podcast, you think of Hampton as being an absolute stud. But from redraft, and as I mentioned in the 2025 Dynasty Outlook video for Hampton, go back and check that out. I just think that this year is going to be a little bit slow, a little bit less than people are expecting, because he was going 102 in a lot of dynasty, 103 in a lot of dynasty teams, drafts this past season. But for redraft, Najee does seem to be that perfect pick to be able to pair with a rookie that might be popping a little bit closer to the end of the season. So if you start thinking about roster construction, that might be some way that you try and go.
Yeah, it's a lot. It reminds me a lot of the Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams situation back in 21 when everyone in the world wanted Javonte to take the job and keep running. But there was this average starter veteran who just wouldn't go away in Melvin Gordon. I could see Najee doing that again. They finished the season with basically identical stats, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see that situation basically play itself out in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that would be great to watch. We love good football out there in Los Angeles. Beautiful stadium. If you haven't had a chance to go check out that stadium, it is incredible. It is a masterpiece of engineering, of architecture. We both nerd out on that kind of stuff. So hopefully somebody does as well that is listening. But David, moving on to the wide receiver group here, what wide receiver values are you immediately trying to pick out here?
So I'm not sure how much we're going to call a value for a guy going wide receiver 16, but I think Rashee Rice is easily going to outplay that if he's healthy. So obviously he only played in 3 games last year, but during that time, well, he played in 4 games, started and finished 3 games last year. During that stretch, he recorded 24 receptions for 288 yards and 2 touchdowns. On a 17-game sample, that's 136 receptions for 1,632 yards and 11 touchdowns. Could he keep that pace up over a whole season? Who knows? But his style of play is perfect for what the Chiefs are doing now. It's more of a yard after the catch offense than it used to be. And I think, Rashee Rice is made perfect for this. He clearly has a rapport with Mahomes. The 2 biggest things you have to worry about, obviously, is he coming back from the injury okay, which all reports say he is. He's going to be ready for training camp. Maybe he starts the first week or 2 slow, but I expect him to be up to speed for the majority of the season. And the second big concern, is he going to face a suspension? ESPN's Adam Schefter says, probably not this year. The NFL is letting the legal proceedings play out, after which the NFL will review said proceedings and then impose their own suspension. It looks like it's probably going to be 2026 if anything happens. So I'm not really worried about it. And I think a guy that's getting this type of volume from that quarterback and that offense is an easy bet to finish as a wide receiver 1, and he's a wide receiver 16 right now.
Yeah, absolutely love it. If he is healthy, we know that everybody loves Mahomes, whether he has been producing like a top-tier quarterback. Everybody still loves Mahomes, which is going to cause KC players typically to rise up draft boards. So maybe he ends up going a little bit higher when you get to your actual draft, just because people that are casuals see that KC name or KC lettering next to the name, and they say, oh, KC scores a bunch of points. Well, be careful falling into that trap, because over these past couple seasons, it's been defense, defense, defense with less explosive shots and more plays of just keeping them ahead of the chains. Is that a concern at all for you, David?
No, because I think Rashee Rice works really well with that. They want someone that can catch a ball, take it for 7 yards on first down. He excels at that. Just getting open quickly, sort of like, and again, Patriots bias here, sort of that Wes Welker, Julian Edelman role.
Yeah, that was a very fruitful role during those days of fantasy football. So hopefully Rashee Rice continues to have that fruitful outcome here. The guy that I want to mention, though, he changed teams this offseason, Davante Adams. Look, Cooper Kupp is gone. Matthew Stafford loves to hyper-target his wide receivers. Puka Nacua is not the healthiest man alive. All right. He tends to miss a few games a year. And I think we all remember what happened in week 1 when Puka wasn't there and it was the absolute Cup show. I think there's going to be a couple of those games for Davante Adams this coming season. Look, I get it. People are concerned. 32 and a half is what his age is listed at on Fantasy Calc, listed as wide receiver 19. All right. Right behind him, you have Devonta Smith. Clearly, I think he's going to outproduce Devonta Smith on a points per game basis. You have DK Metcalf behind Smitty there. Right in front of him, you have Tyreek, who is his own mystery box inside of himself. And right above that, you have Terry McLaurin, who could potentially take a step back. Maybe you see a little bit of a holdout, trying to get that new contract. Maybe he shells out, though, with a new contract. So Davante Adams, I'm going to say Davante Adams averages 9. Averages 9 targets a game, plays a full season, is fully healthy. So you start talking about that, 9 over 17 games, 153 targets. If you tell me that a wide receiver is going to have 153 targets with his skill set, with his possession ability, with his ability to win in the red zone, look, that's a wide receiver that I'm going to think is going to be in the top 15. David, what do you think?
I agree with it wholeheartedly. Again, with Davante, it's a matter of age scaring a lot of people off. Dynasty, I'm obviously a lot lower on him, but he's not the guy he was in Green Bay, but he's still got some good years left in him, or at least a year or two. And Stafford is definitely the quarterback to get the most out of him. Nobody targets wide receivers quite like he does. So, great pick. Now, moving on to me is Josh Downs, who is currently wide receiver 48. Look, the quarterback situation's ugly. Nobody likes it. I'm expecting Daniel Jones to win the job. It sure sounds like nobody likes Anthony Richardson, and I'm so sorry Mike isn't here to defend that. But the facts are just everything's pointing to it being Daniel Jones, who is not a great quarterback, but he can hit the broadside of a barn in the first 5-10 yards of the field. Last year, Josh Downs finished the year with 72 receptions for 803 yards and 5 touchdowns on 107 targets. These are Anthony Richardson targets. They were not particularly accurate, and I'm sure he had more designated targets that Richardson just decided not to throw because why throw when I can run? Or just chuck a ball deep and miss by 15 yards. So I think Daniel Jones is going to be better about getting those easy completions in, which plays well to Downs' strength. And in terms of what he actually does on the football field, last year he finished the year with an 84.8 PFF grade, 12th best in the league. That is very, very good. Shows me there's a lot of talent there for a quarterback like Jones to just throw the nice, easy pass, let Jones make a play. And I think he's going to be an easy bet to outplay that wide receiver 48.
Okay, we're both digging down the ranks here. My next one is also another player on the Tennessee Titans. So I'm going to go with their wide receiver 1, the only wide receiver that should be sniffing anywhere close to 120 plus targets on this team. Frankly, I would be absolutely shocked if anybody on this team gets 80 targets or more other than Calvin Ridley, who is wide receiver 40 in redraft right now. Wide receiver 40, David?
Really? I don't know how that's happening. I think it's another one. It's just you never want to draft the boring guy, but the boring guy late in drafts, he wins you the league.
Look, Calvin Ridley has drastically outperformed this wide receiver 40 ADP over the last 2 seasons. He has been wide receiver 17 and wide receiver 27 the last 2 seasons. That would be with Tennessee and then with Jacksonville. Man, last year was brutal for the Titans. They had horrid quarterback play. 64 receptions out of 120 for 1,017 yards. I would hope that Cam Ward can be more efficient than that. I would hope that he can put the ball on Ridley more accurately. Also, a bunch of rookie wide receivers in this wide receiver room, a bunch of no names outside of that. Look, Ridley is the clear wide receiver 1 in this offense, should be absolutely peppered with targets again. If he has less than 125 targets, they did him a disservice. They did Cam Ward a disservice. They did the entire city of Nashville a disservice.
Yep. Cam Ward's one of the weaker QB ones we've seen in recent years just because the class was so terrible, but it doesn't take much to be better than Levis.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. And also 4 touchdowns last year receiving throughout his career when he played. The only season is 2021. He only played five games and he had 2 touchdowns that season. Every other season he had 7 plus. So yeah, you would hope that there's going to be some positive touchdown regression. This offense gets a little bit better, a little bit more explosive under a coach that was deemed as an offensive guru, somebody that was supposed to be able to lift the offense in Callahan. So we'll see. He is definitely on the hot seat this season.
Yeah, if he can't get it done, it's over. But are you ready to move on to the most exciting position of them all?
Yes, I am ready to move on to tight ends.
Woo!
The beefy receivers, as I like to call them, the guys that can get in the trenches, get dirty with the offensive linemen, be able to chip on a D end, be able to get a linebacker that's trying to come around the edge and lock him up one-on-one. Tight ends are quarterbacks' best friends, David. So with that, maybe they're our fantasy best friends. What do you think? Who do you got here as the guy that is going to outperform their ADP?
So the guy I'm looking at, and I've got a lot of shares of him early on, is Evan Ingram. Look, we know he's not the type of tight end that will fit into every system. He goes away if he's not used in the right role. But Sean Payton's offense, the Joker role, that was tailor-made for a guy like Ingram, a pass-catching tight end who, if you really need him to block, fine, he can do it. But he's much better going out, running routes, making plays. Basically, just imagine what Jimmy Graham was, how they used him in like 2011, 2012, 2013. That's going to be the blueprint for Evan Ingram. Obviously, I'm not expecting those types of results. Evan Ingram is not Jimmy Graham. Bo Nix is not Drew Brees. But I'm expecting you're going to have, if you get Evan Ingram right now, tight end 9, you're going to be thrilled about it.
Yeah, absolutely love that. My pick is actually the very next guy here in David Njoku at tight end 10. He's going into a contract year. He's going to want to smash this year. What did the Browns have at wide receiver? Jerry Jeudy, how often has Jerry Jeudy stayed healthy for an entire season? Now
and
I get
even
it.
when he has stayed healthy, how happy are you playing him when Jameis Winston isn't the quarterback?
Sure. I get it. David Njoku has not been the epitome of health. But when I'm drafting my redraft tight ends, I'm looking for the guys that are going to pop when they're on the field. All right. We had a tight end 2 week from David Njoku 3 separate times last season. If you tell me that you can have a tight end 2 week 3 times in a season, that is well worth me investing in, especially because when he's playing, I know when to play him. And when he's injured, he's going on my IR and I'm picking up a tight end off waiver wire.
Yeah, well said.
Do you have any
Njoku
concern?
was my tight end 2 for this exercise as well. So
okay. Do you have any concerns over the quarterback situation in Cleveland, David?
I mean, I do. They're all terrible, I feel. I mean, Gabriel and Sanders have their chance to prove me wrong, but, Flacco's a corpse. Kenny Pickett's Kenny Pickett. But chances are one of the 2 rookies, probably both, will see action this year. A tight end is a rookie quarterback's best friend, especially when there's no one else reliable, because I am not on the Jeudy train at all. So it's a similar case to Kamara for me, where it's just chase volume and hope efficiency follows. And especially at such a talent-depraved position like tight end, I'm more than happy with taking a guy who I think will just be peppered with short targets.
Yeah. Did you have anybody else that you wanted to shout out? I know tight end's a little bit of a wasteland right now.
I think Mark Andrews is getting a little bit too much hate. Obviously, his season ended in disaster, and he started the year bad. Week 1, when everyone was saying, oh, it's Likely's turn now, Mark Andrews is done. But everything sandwiched between that, Mark Andrews had a pretty solid season last year. the Ravens had every reason to cut him this offseason from his contract standpoint. They could have saved a lot of money in doing so. They didn't. That tells me they still plan on keeping him as a featured part of this passing attack. And he's tight end 8 right now. I do think he's dropped off a little bit from the peak days, but I'd be taking him over Tyler Warren right now just because Warren, rookie tight ends generally don't do that much. I think people are chasing Brock Bowers and hoping Warren can do that again, and he probably can't.
Okay. All right. I think that's a solid call out. Look, call it a homer pick, call it whatever you want. Dallas Goedert is another guy that I want to shout out. He is currently going 15. If I'm going to take 2 tight ends and I want to go just injury risk, but when they're on the field, I know that they're worth a play, I would be looking at a Njoku and Goddard stack. Goddard is currently going as tight end 15. He had a tight end 1 week against New Orleans week 3 of last year. The Eagles historically hyper consolidate targets. It is going to A.J. Brown. It is going to Devonta Smith. It is going to Dallas Goedert when he is on the field. And then it is going to Saquon. That's it. It's 4 players that they're looking at. If the other wide receivers in any given game get more than 5 targets, it is an absolute shock. We saw also a tight end 7 week against Dallas. He is somebody that can get utilized in the red zone. There are just certain games too where he will be able to pop because Smitty is a little banged up or AJ Brown is a little banged up, and hopefully Dallas Goedert is able to utilize those chances. Now you're also going to have some dud weeks, like when he got hurt against Cleveland at the very beginning of the game. That one was tough to swallow coming off of a bye week where he had 1 target for 0 points. That's a tough week to swallow. Then you're also going to have things like when they played the Rams week 12 last year. He was tight end 22, 5 for 4 for 19 yards. You just got to deal with some of those weeks if you're going to draft Goddard. But I can see on a points per game basis, Dallas Goedert being very much worth tight end 15 prices.
Yeah, he's not the most exciting, so those are the guys you want to take if you're playing like 2 tight end or tight end premium, just the ones that no one's going to get too thrilled about. They end up being values by the end of the year more often than not.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, in a single tight end league with no premium, Dallas Goedert very well could make it onto the waivers. Like, he could be somebody that's just sitting out there to keep in mind as a name that when your bye week for your tight end comes around, if you need to pick up a tight end and Goddard is still there and he's still healthy, I think that is a very good process play. Are there any other tight ends that you want to mention, David?
No, honestly, we've talked about the position too much already. If you don't get one of the top 3 guys, just punt.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, hey, we greatly appreciate you coming on as always, David. We appreciate you being part of the team here and pumping out fantastic content for us along with over at Last Word on Sports. So if you guys are listening, go check out David's articles at Last Word on Sports. He is just cranking them out, doing a fantastic job. And he's posting a bunch of redraft content for us because, frankly, Mike and I don't play in nearly enough redraft leagues, so we are a little out of touch with that side of the game. So always appreciate talking some shop with you, talking some ball, David. You want to say anything else to the listeners before we get going here?
No, just thanks to you all for tuning in. It means a lot to us.
All right. Appreciate it. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to check out written content, head over to lastwordonsports.com.
Don't let the goblins get you.